Are you thinking about hiring a business coach? So I'm about to share with you my first conversation I had with this business coach. His name is Matt from Goose Creek Consultings out of Virginia. He was referred to me from a business partner. And I just want to share with you the initial conversation. I might share all four sessions that I've had because I believe that this is going to be, or this has been a pivotal moment in my life and my business career to help me find like who I am, who I want to be, and how to bridge the gap between those two people. And I've been saying a lot in like the reinvestor mindset is that your job as a entrepreneur and as a person in general is to find out who you want to be in life and take who you are today and mold that person out of who you are right now. And I know it's very difficult. It's been difficult for me. I've been trying for a long time, but haven't really been able to put it all together. And Matt has helped me tremendously into distilling all the different thoughts in my head and help putting me in the path of getting to where I want to be. And I've always thought that people should get business coaches and life coaches or really coaches on like every, area in life. But this is like my first real experience in like a one-on-one coaching. So I'm really excited to share the experience with all of you. And hopefully you can learn something from this, our conversation, learn a little bit more about me. And hopefully, maybe we have some similarities into like my challenges and what I'm trying to do that you're trying to do as well. So hopefully you can put something that, in our conversation into practice. But I don't want to go into any more detail. I just want to get straight to it. So let's, uh, let's roll.
My belief is I want to help people become the best that they can in the situations that they exist in. And along with that, working with the what I would call the whole person, right? What you're bringing from your life experiences, what you're bringing from your professional experiences, the current situation that you're in right now. What's the future desired state that you want to be? Where do you want your organization to go? All of those things intertwined. So appreciating all of those, gaining context on a lot of that throughout our conversations, and figuring out how best to leverage different things at different times to really be able to move forward.
Yeah.
My view is my role as a coach is not someone that's necessarily going to be providing answers for you, but someone that I truly believe this is a partnership where we will be working together, standing side by side to figure out best ways forward, especially when it comes to finding skill sets or behaviors or outcomes that we want to build or achieve and the pathway to get to that point. That's kind of where I view my role. It's really a partnership more than I'm going to tell you or show you the right thing to do. It's a really important distinction between things like therapy or consulting, or that tend to get thrown into the same bag a lot of times as coaching, where we're not focusing on past emotional trauma like you would in a therapy session. I'm not sitting here giving you necessarily business advice because that's not my space. That wouldn't make much sense. You're the expert in your field in this relationship right now, right? This is us working together to identify your values, your goals, what matters most to you, and understanding more about who you are to be able to leverage who you are to become the person that you want to be in your given situation. I hope that sheds some light, that makes some sense.
No, yeah, I think it clarifies a lot, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Outcomes. That's a really strong focus of coaching, is that it should be outcome focused. It should be about achieving goals. It should be about behavioral shifts that are really necessary to make the differences and to make the changes that we want to see. From a scientific standpoint, behaviors are really strongly tied to personality. A lot of people think personality is difficult to change, which it is. Some might even say that you can't change it. I'm on the more it's difficult side, but it can incrementally. But one of the things we can change, especially in the short term, are the behaviors we engage in. And that's really what we're focusing on, is identifying those behaviors that's going to take us to the next level and focusing on those as goals and outcomes. However those take shape, that'll become a little bit more clear during our conversations. Sustainable, impactful change tends to be more incremental, except outside of extreme circumstances. But for really what we're talking about, a lot of leadership development it takes time, it's incremental. And so focusing on a few high priority things, a few critical things that are going to move the needle as much as we can in a short time is really where I would like our focus to be. Is not trying to do, simply put, not biting off more than we can chew right now.
Yeah, not trying to do a full overhaul.
Exactly.
It's like already worked for me, but let's just make a few adjustments. And I think that's like the way that you do anything, because I'd like to train for
Ironman and stuff like that. When I first started training for it, I couldn't do all three sports at one time. I was like, hey, I'm just going to do running. Then I'm going to do swimming. Then I'm going to do biking. If I tried doing all three at one time, I would never have done it.
Absolutely. And within each of those, you build up incrementally. You don't do the full marathon off the bat.
And I don't focus on trying to improve the minutia before I got better at just like the base things too. So yeah, I'm full on board, and I like that. That's your outlook as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few things about kind of expectations and commitment without boring about the specifics here. Just my expectations are really that we're committed to this partnership type of relationship. We're committed to putting in the work together, and we're committed to showing up. And I mean that physically as well as mentally, emotionally, being prepared to have the conversations, not just physically showing up. And that goes from, to be very clear, this is an agreement for both. It's just as much my responsibility to show up and be in the headspace necessary to be able to have a conversation with you as vice versa. Those are, in my opinion, three of the key agreements and expectations and commitments for a successful coaching relationship. That's really where I'm coming from on.
Okay.
And then lastly, and then putting in the work, just touching on that one again, there might be times when I ask, hey, when we come to the end of a session and you've come to the conclusion that you want to try out some different tactics or put into play a behavior or try something out, pilot something, test something out between our sessions. And I'm going to ask you about that the next time, or you're going to bring it up to me the next time. And so just being on the same page, that might be something that comes up, and be willing to to try that out and hold each other accountable for things like that. Last time we talked a little bit about what your expectations are and desires and things like that. But I would love to throw it back over to you and see what do you want to accomplish in the entirety of our coaching engagement? What do you want to see at the end?
So that's a great question. And I've been thinking about that specifically a lot lately, and my goals and what I want to accomplish, because the 2022 is coming to an end. So I'm thinking a lot about next year and who I want to be and stuff like that. So I don't know if I have a great answer for you right now. But things that I am thinking about a lot about is I do have very large goals. I want to own several very big businesses and have an impact on a lot of people. So what skills do I need to improve on myself? Because I know that I can't achieve all of it. I just know that I'm lacking a lot of skills when I see people that have a lot of success. Oh, I'm not quite there yet. So I'm trying to figure out who I need to be today in order to get me prepared for that. Doing a lot of introspection right now, and I'm still trying to figure all that out. And I think that's one of the reasons I was so excited about this, because this is the whole leadership coaching in general. I was like, okay, if I want to have several companies, I'm gonna have to have a team of people that are doing all sorts of different things, because I obviously can't, I don't think one person can even run one business without a team. So either way, whatever happens in my life, leadership skills is a huge skill to have. So I don't really quite know, to be honest. I know communication is something that I need to improve on, but I don't know what the typical skills are that you find successful entrepreneurs or CEOs embody. Maybe I could push it back to you and say, hey, this is things that Wharton, or you're with Wharton, right?
What's that?
Or what school were you with?
Georgetown,
not Wharton. Okay. Yeah. So whatever Georgetown, I say this is those skills, I'm not quite sure yet what I actually need. I just know that there's, I'd say, a lot of holes, and not to say that I'm I don't think that I'm capable, but more so that I know I have a lot to work on in life.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So you've been saying you've been doing a lot of introspection, I love that. That's great. What's been the result of that? What have you discovered about yourself?
Gosh, I think it's more that I have so much that I need to do in life, or that I need to improve on. I don't want to pretend I'm amazing at this or that, because I feel like I am above average at a lot of things, but I don't excel at any one thing. And so trying to figure out what my one thing is that I'm remarkably competitively advantaged against everyone else, what that is. So I think that my introspective is finding out more about who I am, which is a loop. Trying to find myself makes me realize that I really gotta find myself. Because when I first started entrepreneurship, I thought I was a natural born entrepreneur. When I was in my early mid 20s, I was my entire life I've been born to be an entrepreneur. The moment I start a business, I'm going to find success. And then I started to try to start a business. Okay, this is not, I was lied to my whole entire life, to myself. This is not something that you just do. And entrepreneurs, I don't believe, are born. I think that there's a lot of skills that they have, and anyone can kind of build and grow on those skills type thing. I've been like having this whole like reset of who I am the past like 2 or 3 years, trying to find it again. Because I don't think that entrepreneurship is a natural born ability. It's not like a height, or you can jump high, or you can run very fast. It's not like that. I think it's a skill. So I think leadership in general is one skill that I need to work on. And like I said earlier, communication. I have been like creating videos, content on social media and stuff like that, because I do want to learn how to communicate more effectively to people. Concisely, sometimes I do ramble, like I'm slightly rambling right now, but I'm trying to elaborate, stuff like that. I'm just still trying to figure, find myself through introspection.
Yeah, sure.
It's one of those nasty loops.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So when you doing some reflective thinking right now, when you were in that space of thinking that you were a natural born entrepreneur, what were some of the things that were about yourself that were making you feel that way?
I think
whether they be, I'll throw you a bone on this one, whether they be like either skills or behaviors you had, or beliefs or values or motivators that you had kind of within that.
Okay, so you said belief, motivators,
skill sets.
So I would say that the skills, I think that I am a amazing people person. Like people like this love me across the board. I have a ton of friends. Very much like a pleaser sometimes. I actually did this personality test recently. I was like, oh, you were a pleaser type thing. So for better or for worse, what was the other one? So motivations. I would say that like one of my biggest motivator in my life is that I grew up in a divorced household, seeing one being a well-off father who had a successful business versus my mom who was very poor. Not being poor is a huge motivator, but also seeing what life can bring you from entrepreneurship and wanting to achieve success came from my father. Then what was the others? Skill, motivation, and beliefs. Beliefs. I think anyone can achieve anything given the right amount of luck and time. I think that I can achieve everything that I want to, as long as I have enough time to be able to put it all together. Because I do think that the time aspect and success has some bit of luck to it, but over a long enough time, everyone will find success. I don't care if it's 30, 50, 100 years, because you could look at Colonel Sanders starting KFC when he was like 75 years old versus you see a lot of people on social media who are 20, 24 years old building $1 million businesses. They got lucky that they found the right thing that worked with their skills, and they were put in the right opportunity at the right time versus founder of KFC. Took him a long time to find that, but he kept working at it type thing. So I think it's guaranteed if you just have enough time to keep on working at it. Obviously, you have to keep on trying. You can't just sit there and find success. It's going to eventually happen. So I do think I have a very positive and strong mindset that's suited well for entrepreneurship.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If I may make an observation, one of the common themes that I'm kind of picking up right now on that threads that I want to tug on is you've used the word success a number of times. You've hinted at having big goals that you want to succeed at and achieve. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on what those large goals mean, what succeeding at those means?
So what is like success to me is a pretty simple definition, I guess. It's just like I look at success as what does your perfect day look like, and how often can you like live that perfect day? And so like I imagine like a lot of my life that I am able to, obviously I like to doing the extravagant things like travel, eating fancy, all that kind of like bougie type stuff or whatever, but I also want to spend a lot of my time helping other people achieve their goals as well. I think that if I could put myself in a situation to where I don't have to worry about money, business, but also have a proven track record of success, that I'll be able to help more people achieve their goals. So if I could say, hey, Adam, I built these 3 to 5 really successful multi-million-dollar businesses that will give me credibility to go help 100,000 people start their businesses, achieve the life that I know that so many people want, but for whatever reason, they'll have the motivation, the education, or feel like they have the opportunity to find it themselves.
Yeah. What is it about positioning yourself to be able to help all these other people? What is it about that's important to you?
To be honest, it's simply because it feels good. Like I do a lot of like little like 15, 20, 30-minute calls with people that are just getting into real estate and stuff like that. Just giving someone like one bit of advice or solving like one little bit of problem or whatever makes me feel better that the pain and struggle that I went through was worth it if I could save someone else going through that. So it just, put simply, it just feels good to help people, because I know what it's like to have, like I said, like a poor mother, being half poor, being half financially, I want to say like rich or anything like that, but off, I would guess. Seeing both sides of it, knowing that one side is 1,000 times better than the other one, and that a lot of people do want to find it, and just, like I said earlier, don't either have the opportunity, the motivation, or education, or whatever it may be, feel like they can't achieve it.
Yeah, I think that definitely resonates. Just, again, if I may make an observation,
Sure.
there's some elements of altruism here that I'm picking up on as a theme. Caring about, you've had experiences that you don't want to continue, you don't want to experience in your own future, and you don't want other people to experience in their future. So putting yourself in a position where you're able to help people, is that a fair reflection of kind of what you're...
Yeah, that's part of it. I don't know if there's like a ratio of like selfishness, like I said, wanting to travel and have luxury versus 10% that goes to tourism. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, can you elaborate on that a little bit, if you don't mind, on that ratio? What you think about that?
Oh, I said I don't know what the ratio is. If it's 99% me wanting to have a Lamborghini, which I don't want a Lamborghini, I'll take a Ferrari, but versus 1% being altruistic, or if it's 80% wanting to help other people and 20% wanting to have a nice couple lifestyle for me and my family, like that. So I just don't know what that ratio is, and I don't know if it matters, because I think that if you have 1% good in you and you're selfish for 99% of the time, but like a billionaire, for example, he could just hoard all of his money away. But Bill Gates, for example, but he gives 99.9% of away of it at the end of his life. Is he a bad guy, or is he a great person because he did better with his money through his entire life to accumulate $200 billion, whatever it was, to give it all away, versus if he had $1 billion and gave away it all, then it never would have compounded 200 billion or whatever. I don't know. Yeah.
No, I think that's a fair question. That might be one that's worthwhile keeping to think about, or at least keeping in the back of your mind. I don't know, but I think that's a good question, though, at least to ask.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe a more philosophical question that may not ever have an answer.
I know. I don't think it ever will.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't matter whether you're 99% altruistic, 1% selfish, or 1% altruistic, 99% selfish. As long as it's there, and
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I want to go back to kind of what you said about your definition of success, and specifically that idea, and I really liked how you framed that, the idea of what is your perfect day and how frequently can you experience that? And what does it take to get to that point? I think that's a really, it's very unique, at least from my perspective. It's not a way that I've heard that described before, but I like it, and it makes a lot of sense. I'm curious if you could try and explain, what does a perfect day look like, or maybe a little bit more broadly, what does kind of an ideal state look like when we're talking about, take a step back, when we're talking about kind of wanting to gain clarity about what the current state of Adam is in order to move forward, right? Do we have an idea of what that perfect day is, of what that ideal state is? That's the question I'm trying to get at.
So the reason why I had that kind of thought out is because I went to a financial freedom seminar recently, and I had that epiphany while at that financial freedom seminar. And it's okay, once you find financial freedom, that's when you're able to live your perfect day if you wanted to. And that's why I think people, I don't know, Elon Musk, for example, how he has $250 billion, but he continues to build these massive businesses because he's figured out what his perfect day is. Or Warren Buffett, who equally $100 billion or whatever it may be, he found his perfect day that he enjoys this investing, and that's all he does every single day. So I'm trying to figure that out. And for Adam, but some of the priorities that I've had for my life, or that I'm trying to put a focus on for 2022, and I really want to focus on a lot for 2023, is around obviously trying to figure out my financial freedom for myself, but also the three other main components is for family and friendships. So it's connections, with other people, mindset. So doing things like meditating, yoga, doing this all the kind of stuff to make sure that my mind stays healthy, because it scares me, the idea that I might lose my mind in 50 years type thing, because my grandfather had dementia and stuff like that. Then also just being healthy, because I've gone through phases of being super healthy and super unhealthy. What was the last thing? Financial freedom, mindset, health. Health and like relationships. So trying to focus on those like 4 things like a lot recently. And I think that if my perfect day can somehow encompass all of those, every single night having like a nice relaxing dinner with friends, every single morning I wake up, go on a nice long run or a bike ride or a swim or something like that to get the blood flowing and stay healthy and young, eating well for all the meals and be able to give back for a large portion of my day, and also spend a lot of time on my businesses, because I know that if you can build a great business, then it's not just you making money, but it's about you helping other people put food on their table type thing. And what was the last thing? Mindset. Yeah, just always learning or trying to have my mental state always being healthy, because I've gone through a lot of depression before and stuff like that, either through losing friends, family, or not finding success as early as people wanted to.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that's great. And you've hit on a lot of, I think, keyed in a lot of kind of values there. Would you view those kind of 4, we'll call those priorities for 2023, are those aligned with kind of what you would consider to be your core values?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
I'd say 100%.
Yeah. How do they intertwine if you separate them? How do they intertwine with your kind of work or business values?
So I'd say my long-term goals, they align like perfectly, but how the business has been the past 2 years hasn't quite been there quite yet. But I do see the vision for how it can be. Obviously, I wish I could snap my fingers and everything, be like, okay, I have this team, I get to focus on what I'm good at, allow people to do what I'm not that good at type thing. But I know that it takes time. So right now I would say they're not aligned, because I said that a little earlier, my health or whatever goes in waves, because say after I did the Ironman, I focused only I care about was the business. And luckily we've had some success over the past year, but started training for a marathon, and now I feel like we found success. It gives me some breathing room to be able to start focusing on other areas. And I'm not happy that it was like a all or nothing type thing. It was before I started the business, I could do whatever I want, spend all time with my friends, family, working out, stuff like that. The moment I started the business, it kind of went the entire other way. And now I'm trying to get the pendulum back in the middle. So it's like a pendulum. It's going back and forth, and hopefully I can just kind of figure out how to settle in the middle.
Sure. What are some derailers that are currently or could prevent kind of getting that pendulum back to the middle?
So I'll say one thing that with any sort of stressor in the business kind of derails me from the other aspects. And common stressors are inconsistency and deal flow. Like November was, like I said, a very tough month for us. We only made like $6,000, which we were expecting to make like 27, I think is when we walked into it, like 27, 30K. So losing 2 very large deals that we thought were like in the bag was tough. But on that front, it's funny, but I've also been like wanting to get hit in the face with challenges, because like in the past, like usually because I had someone really close to me pass away, like in the middle of me training really hard, and the moment that they died, I stopped working out. I gained like 25 pounds, and I noticed like every time something major happens, the dude pushing me off the rails, I fucking get backtracked for so long. And now I'm like, no, I need something that pushes me off the rails so I can prove that I don't get knocked off anymore. Prove my, I don't know what the word to use, balance, or...
Can I offer a word?
Yeah, give it to me.
I would call that practicing your resilience.
Yeah.
Resilience or adjustment, you can mold that word to mean different things. Really what it comes down to is, how do you respond when the shit hits the fan? How do you respond when that happens? And part of that is, how do you juggle the 14 million different things that you have? How do you switch focus? How do you deal with the ever-changing environment or the ambiguity of different situations, right? I hear it as a resilience thing, but that's my, I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, no, I like it. Yeah, because I've been fully aware of it for a while, and I noticed the pattern. I don't know if I noticed it in when it was happening, but looking back, like, okay, yeah, that happened, this happened, that happened, this happened. Oh, why am I doing that? It's like something happens and I just crumple. That's like a sign of weakness, and like I don't want to continue doing that. So, but even as of recently, like I said, I was creating content not really creating content right now because the month was really bad. So I want to focus on the business, but I'm at least keeping up with the marathon training and stuff like that. So I've been like, hey, that's one small win. I don't care. I'll start creating content in a week or two or whatever. So I'm still having it, but I didn't think it would be like the moment I realized it that everything can get fixed. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear a little bit more about what are some other things that you've keyed in on that you've been trying to practice similarly to we'll call it resilience for the sake of conversation. But is there anything else that you, again, going back to what you said at the beginning, been doing a lot of introspection lately, and I'm going to guess that kind of resilience piece is something that's probably come up that you've been thinking about, you've been self-aware about that in the past. Is there anything else that's come up that you've keyed in on and been trying to practice or wanting to in a similar vein?
The more I think about it, the more it seems like that's like maybe the number one thing. Let me see. So I need some more thinking or talking for something else off the top of my head. I think it might have lost.
All right. Nope. Weird. We got you?
Okay, can you hear me?
All right, there we go.
Gosh, man, sorry.
No worries.
Nick's infamous for calling twice, and so I was trying to hang up and accidentally hung up on the Zoom, and I was like, oh gosh.
No worries.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, that happens to me all the time. It fails that I'll be driving somewhere and going through the most confusing like exit exchange or something, and someone will call me and wipe out my GPS every single time.
It freaks you out, like, well, I don't know where I'm supposed to go now. Yeah,
Yep.
I can't get back to it.
Yep. Yeah.
Sorry about that. And it took me like 4 attempts to get back in for whatever reason.
No worries. No worries. But yeah, there's definitely a lot to think about, right?
100%.
One of the things that I can appreciate about what you said, of the many things I appreciate, is that you are engaging in some introspection right now, but it can be hard to figure out what your current state is. Like, where do you stand currently? I will say two things that in and of itself is something, right? The desire and the need, the self-awareness to say, I need to understand where I am better now so I can understand how to move forward. Right? That in and of itself is a thing to latch onto. Another element that I was picking up on is really the alignment of those personal goals, getting those to a place where they are aligned with what those work values are, or vice versa, getting those work values, getting that pendulum, as you said, up in the middle there. So we have even more of a balance between those personal goals and those work goals. Because I personally think that, and it's not even really my opinion, it's definitely not a novel opinion, but when you have the balance between your work goals and your personal goals, or when those are in alignment, I'll say, life can become a little bit more seamless. I won't say easy, but at least a little bit more seamless. When you're able to walk into work and you don't have to put on a different hat, you don't have to change your demeanor, right? Your values are aligned with the work that you're doing, and the work that you're doing is in line with your values. That can go a long way. And again, please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a bit of the sense I was getting from what you were saying.
Yeah, no, that's definitely like the vision, and just because it makes sense. Kind of like you said, you don't have to put on a mask. Like, you could imagine like an actor, Jim Carrey might be a great example. If you had to walk in and play the Grinch every single day for 30 years, he would probably kill himself. Like, being like, in all seriousness, he's a very like deep and dark person sometimes, and you actually hear him speak, so he probably would hate to be that character for a long time. But versus when he's just himself, or people are just themselves, and it's much easier to live a life when you are who you are. And I think that's through alignment with your vision for yourself and life and work and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, you say it makes sense, but I promise you, there's plenty of people that don't see that alignment, or they don't understand its value even. There's plenty of people out there. People that go to work, that's their mindset, or there's plenty of people that say, I'm a completely different person at work. So that feels like that might be really stressful for you. You're constantly switching who you are, and that doesn't seem that's the healthiest thing.
You just think of in a world where that doesn't make sense. Can you just imagine that for a moment?
Exactly. One of the other things I was taking away again was that kind of that resilience piece, right? And that's one of the more specific things I think you touched on, was finding opportunities to practice that so you can stay on the rails, so you're not getting derailed or having to go from one extreme to the next. You can exist in that balanced state and not get topsy-turvy when things happen. So those are three kind of high level things. And I don't my intent really is for at least these first kind of few sessions is flesh out these ideas a little bit. And so I think this is a really good starting point. How do you feel about this conversation? Anything that we've talked about? I think we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That I feel like thinking more about the introspective thing, because it always feels like overwhelming. So there is a bit of relief. Okay, now there's someone that can that has experience or an outside opinion that's not like a friend or family. I'm not a therapist, but there's also the feeling of oh, it's kind of like a therapist. Because I always tell my friends my favorite people to talk to when I go to a random city and just go sit at a bar and talk to a stranger, because there's zero connection. You can
Absolutely.
say whatever you want to. So it's kind of like that same feeling. I don't know the words to describe that, but there's a little bit of relief and excitement, because it is overwhelming. Like I said, just so many things that I know that I have to improve on. And one thing that I am impatient sometimes. I don't know if impatient is the right word, but there's stress from not having achieved it for what I want to earlier. So there's, I think that I call impatient, but not really impatient. But so it's kind of overwhelming to try to work on so many different things and trying to figure out which things I should work on. So having someone be like, you know what, after hearing everything, this is what I feel that you should work on, this and that. And I think that's a huge weight off my shoulders, and being like, all right, let's just do this. Because I think that everyone needs a coach in every aspect of life. I've been begging my brother to get one in his business. And I think that everyone needs to have a coach in their fitness goals, their business goals, their relationship goals with their spouse or whatever. You need a coach in everything, just to have an outside perspective, and to also be able to let you know what you need to improve on, or just be an ear or something like that. I say that I'm very excited about all of it.
Yeah, wonderful. Absolutely. I think that's great. And so I think thinking about our next conversation, I think jumping back on top of some of this stuff and opening it back up to anything that comes to your mind between now and then is really my intent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put too much weight on what we've scratched at so far, but I also want to keep it there and relevant. I would love it if keep doing what you're doing, right? Keep doing the introspection, keep thinking about that. If there's different ways you could maybe engage in that introspection, whether it's, I know you talked about practicing fitness and yoga and meditation. I don't know if you're a journaler or anything like that, but there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I'm not a big journaler, but I'm trying to be more of one now. When you do engage in introspection, especially for people that are more self-aware, from my experience, it can be, like you just said, very overwhelming, because you start uncovering 1,000,001 different things, right? And so I want to have the stress of trying to remember the 1,000,001 different things rather than just putting them on a piece of paper. You know what I mean? In its simplest sense, that's how that can make sense to me. It's food for thought. Obviously, you go about the way that you think is best for you. But I would love to kick off this conversation, see if we can't flesh out some of these ideas the next time. I'll probably ask you in the next session, hey, what's something that you want to, if there's anything that stands out that you want to focus on. Love to get to a point of seeing if we can't decipher some ways to measure some progress on a few of these things, or track some progress on a few of these things. So that's food for thought for moving forward. Other than that, I think this is a really great conversation, a really productive conversation. I really appreciate, again, you showing up, you being willing and ready to have the talk and to partner with me and allowing me to just throw myself into the ambiguity that is this space. So I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you as well.
Absolutely. Okay. Any questions for me at this time before we roll out?
No, so just a refresher. So the things that you want me to kind of get prepared for the next call. So the things that you want me to focus on are, I guess, a little more introspective on what things that kind of stand out that I want to work on and figure out how it can be measured.
Don't figure out how it can be measured yet. That's a question.
I was like, dude, I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah, no, that's a question that we'll explore that together. Together. Absolutely. Yeah. Don't worry about that. But do some more introspection on where you feel you are, where you kind of feel
I'm doing a lot of that. So I think
so just keep doing that.
It's not going to be an objective.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Keep doing what you're doing and be prepared for me to ask. You don't have to have an answer necessarily, but I will be asking you the question, what do you want to focus on? Okay. That will be a topic, or that will be a question that I ask. And so no sweat. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Awesome.
All
Thanks,
right,
man. I
man.
really do appreciate it. Can't
Absolutely,
wait to talk
man.
to you in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good, man.
Peace.
Take care. Bye.
That was the first session I had with Matt, and as you could tell, it was mainly about figuring out, what I'm trying to get out of our coaching calls. To be honest, I didn't really know what I was trying to get out of it. I'm just trying to, figure out who I am and what I'm trying to be and be able to put it into words. And he's definitely helping me guide me down that path. And now that I think about it, I'm definitely going to share my other calls in a similar format like this one right here. So if this was something that you're interested in, definitely let me know down in the comments of something that you've learned or applying or any challenges that you're having that are similar to some of the things I'm having conversations with Matt about. But yeah, I hope you were able to get something out of that, learn a little bit more about me as a person, and probably you probably caught on some common themes of things that I'm talking about with the reinvestor and the lifestyle I think that entrepreneurs should be living. Because I was thinking about it before, but he's definitely helping me kind of consolidate and reaffirm some of my beliefs and put it into words better. So yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, peace.